Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have another great guest on. And the reason why this guest is great is because if you're in North Carolina or you're in the Carolina region, you've probably heard about this organization because I know I have through over 165 interviews. This name has definitely come up a lot. So, Thom Ruhe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Terrell. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, as all the guests can see, that your business is NC Idea. But before we jump into NC Idea, I wanted to hear a little bit about your background before, you fathered NC Idea.
Yeah, just point that I'll come back to. I didn't father NCID. I'm the first CEO after it incorporated as a private foundation, but I did have a predecessor, Dave Rizzo, incredible gentleman who started the organization back in 2005. But
Okay.
my kind of how'd I get here story, I like to say tongue in cheek, I spent the first 20 years of my career helping start and grow great companies. And I've spent the last 15 years helping others do the same. So right around the time that we sold the last company that I was part of, I don't know if it was a midlife crisis, but instead of a girlfriend and a motorcycle, I transitioned into economic development and the nonprofit sector because I really I had learned firsthand the economic empowerment of that entrepreneurship provides people, all people, right? It's a great equalizer. And I wanted others to have that same benefit. So that took me on a journey. I was a co-founder of an organization that looks very much like NC Idea up in Cleveland, Ohio, called Jumpstart. And they are still going strong after being started in 2004, and they're doing great. And their economic impact to Northeast Ohio is measured in billions of dollars. The work that we were doing there was so cutting edge that I got recruited to go to the Kauffman Foundation of Kansas City. And for people that know this space, if you'll excuse a sports metaphor, getting the opportunity to work for Kauffman is like getting called up to the major leagues, right? It's frankly the only thing I would have left Jumpstart for, because I just loved the work we were doing there. And so I got to really understand at a global scale, for the 7 years I worked at Kauffman, all of the key ingredients and components to building strong, vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystems and the impact that has on society, right? Helping underserved and underrepresented communities, become economically empowered, strengthening, the economic vitality of communities because of the diversity, not only in real terms of founders that get supported, but just diverse industries, right? You don't have all your eggs in like a fintech basket or an ag basket, but like the diversity of a portfolio. It's the thing that I have seen personally that has had the most potential to help people. So did that for 7 years. And then, my kids are getting to that age, and my wife and I, after 30 some years of marriage, were empty nesters. And not that I didn't love living in Northeast Ohio and enjoying, Cleveland winters, but as anybody in North Carolina can tell you, they kind of suck. So we looked around, and at my time at Kauffman, it kind of run its course, and I was ready for my next adventure. And a friend of mine that happened to be down here was aware at the time, this being late 2015, that NC Idea, having just converted to an independent private foundation, we're looking for that first president CEO. So I threw my hat in the ring, and yeah, that was a little over 4.5 years ago.
Awesome. And I will say, on the move from Ohio, I can understand that. My wife and I moved to Charlotte from Cincinnati, and I will say I don't miss the Midwest winters.
Yeah, and the difference between a Cincinnati winter and a Cleveland winter is vast too. Like I lived in what was euphemistically referred to as the snow belt of Northeast Ohio. It was about 20 miles northeast of Cleveland, where we would, a winter that dropped 240 inches of snow was not uncommon.
Wow. Wow. So I completely understand that. And I think that's a very interesting journey. I mean, when you think about, entrepreneurship, and you think about a lot of people jumping into that space, or I guess now it seems like a lot of people have, there's a lot of excitement and energy about entrepreneurship. What was it like for you in really starting an organization that has to help people come to grips with the reality of what that journey is going to look like, but still keep their hopes high that they could do it?
Yeah, entrepreneurship's it's a curious thing. People come to it through different paths, right? Some people have the good fortune of growing up in a house with an entrepreneurial, parent or both parents. And so this idea of like entrepreneurship being some abstract thing, it's even foreign to them because it's how they've been raised. It's the water they swim in, right? You just look at the world differently and you see problems as opportunities. But too few people have that kind of upbringing or that type of experience. So they come to it from different angles. It might be a class that they took, a community economic development organization was putting on a workshop, or they took an entrepreneurship course in college. And then for some, it's just out of necessity, right? And think about that. We see that in a lot of our rural and underserved communities at this moment. If the largest employer has just closed the factory and people are moving out of the region, and for whatever reason, it's not an option for you to move, right? Some people are turning to entrepreneurship out of necessity. And, we refer to them euphemistically as survival entrepreneurs. However you get there, I think what people, most folks realize, especially, first timers, as they work through and they toil and they struggle, but as they start having a certain success, right, their mindset shifts, right? They start seeing the world differently. And it bums me out because I had a great metaphor years ago, but the movies are so old now, but it was the Matrix, right? And I'm like, entrepreneurs, when they start going through the process, they become like Neo, where they can start seeing the Matrix for what it is, right? Where so many other people just kind of go through their day, they have a job, they they do their 8 and skate, they punch the metaphorical time clock. But, once they leave the office or turn off the Zoom screen to reflect, the current times, they're done thinking about anything, let alone like, how their company could be a better company and serve more people. Whereas entrepreneurs are the opposite. They can't turn it off, right? They're always looking at something and going, that could be better, right? Or we can improve that. Or, hey, this would really help others if we did it this way, right? And you can't, once your mind opens to that, it can never go back to being small again. Mm-hmm. And that's why, I am such an advocate for entrepreneurship. And frankly, I think it's a way, my big main cause at the moment is that we're really trying hard to redefine what economic development best practices are. And we're trying to redefine it through the entrepreneurship lens.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And I think, to stay in line with your analogy, because I love that analogy too. I mean, I'm a fan of the Matrix series, because what I often see sometimes is where, some people, tend to unplug themselves from like, the corporate world, and they jump into entrepreneurship, and not everybody has the benefit of, having a Morpheus to kind of help guide them down that path. So, I mean, as you start to, work with different people that are starting to have their eyes open to entrepreneurship, how is that journey like? I mean, with, serving, and the idea of helping people make that transition.
It's unbelievably rewarding, is the very top of mind answer to that question, right? Because we're helping people. I love that reference to Morpheus. Like, yes, let's keep riffing on this metaphor, right? It's such a privilege to help people go through this journey of self-discovery, right? Because for most first timers, right, if you're a decent human being with a normal ego, right, you have some self-doubt. And so you wonder, right? And at the risk of stating the obvious, entrepreneurship is hard, right? And a lot of times it's lonely, and you're toiling in uncertainty, and you're looking for those little indicators that, you're onto something, right? And that happens as you go through the arc and your product starts gaining traction and you start making sales, and all of a sudden you can take a paycheck and you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. That doesn't suck. But when you have the good fortune to, like, your job is to help people on that journey, man, it's a wonderful thing. You know, I work probably about 60, last time I checked, it was like 61 hours a week is what my average was. And I have no complaints. It doesn't feel like work, right? It's just, you're seeing people break, you know, learned helplessness. That's what we see a lot in the marketplace, right? People have an external locus of control, right? My life is something that happens to me. I'm just a bystander, right? And again, in the kind of the entrepreneurship education circles that we run in and programs that we have, we call that learned helplessness, right? Like, you know, life is, you know, good, or it sucks and I can't do anything. Entrepreneurs, their locus of control flips and it becomes internal, right? And I am not some helpless bystander in the arc of my life experience, but I can influence it. I mean, certainly there are still things that are outside my control, but I'm all of a sudden more attuned to the things that are in my control, and proactive about addressing those things. Mm-hmm. And with that becomes this, you know, shift from external to internal locus of control, and then this empowerment that comes from it. And it's critical thinking then that starts being amplified, you know, problem solving skills, things. A setback isn't this thing that's going to, you know, take you out of the game for days, if not weeks. It's just something to overcome. And it's just, I keep saying the same words and I apologize for that. It's just so empowering, and it's such a privilege, and it's a gift. I feel like the luckiest person. I think I've got the best job in the state of North Carolina right now.
Awesome. So, you know, we've established, you know, entrepreneurship is like, you know, you're playing the role of Neo, to where you're opening your eyes, coming out of, you know, the matrix and seeing the world for what it really is. And NC Idea is serving as, you know, your Morpheus. It's helping you learn and navigate that. So what are some of the things that NCI does that really helps people and entrepreneurs navigate kind of that journey of, you know, an entrepreneur?
So we maintain a strategic portfolio of grants and programs. So we do things, we stroke checks, we put money to work directly, but we also run programs to help people and to give kind of guidance and purpose to what you do with the money. So what does that mean and what does that look like? Well, think of our kind of B2C strategy, right? Where we're going direct to the consumer, in this case, the entrepreneurs, the people that we exist to serve. Our two most notable programs there, our grant programs, are our seed program, which is a $50,000 grant. And it's, as the name implies, it's a grant, it's a gift, it's free money. It's not debt. You know, entrepreneurs don't pay us back. They don't give us equity in their company. It is, to my knowledge, and I'll say this in this one so that the thousands of people that'll watch this, if they can prove me wrong, I don't know of another economic development organization in the country that gives away more money than we do. There are certainly many that invest money or put out loans, right? But we give away money. So that's the seed program, $50,000. And then about 2 years ago, we started the micro grant program, which are $10,000 grants. So those two grant programs, we operate twice a year through a competitive cycle. It is free money that we give away, so you can imagine that it's competitive, right? Lots of people like free money. So we do have, you know, kind of a criteria and all, you know, what we look for and the impact we're trying to have. And that's all spelled out ad nauseum on our website. And we've got videos and everything else to explain that. And that's kind of our B2C strategy, where we, you know, help them directly and the money goes to them directly. We also run a labs program. It's called Labs, which is, you know, an accelerator program. So it's the mechanics, the how-to, right? And how do we do customer discovery? How do you validate that you've got something of potential before you spend your 401k developing a prototype before you've actually gotten any feedback, right? So that's how we help entrepreneurs directly. In front of all that, we've got an educational program called the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program, which is really kind of our tip of the spear community engagement tool at the mass level, because we've put a stake in the ground to say we want to get 100,000 people educated through this entrepreneurial mindset program.
Wow.
In the hopes that some percent, right, will go off kind of like a Roman candle, right? And even if it's, 10%, right? It's 10,000. Even if it's 1%, it's 1,000 people that will become activated, because, our perception is that an entrepreneurial mindset is actually a life skill. It's not a business skill. It's a life skill. So even if you're working at a large, company, take any one of the, the big employers in the Research Triangle Park, for example, entrepreneurial employees, they operate differently inside the organization, right? They're finding, those marginal efficiencies and ways to improve the corporation. And then again, some small percent of people will go off and start companies of high economic impact. So through the Ice House program, we're out there in the masses, saying, hey, take this class. It's free. We've made all the arrangements so that there's no cost associated with it. All that together is our B2C strategy. We have a B2B strategy where we have recognized there are other organizations in the state that are doing similar things to what we're doing, right? And so we're trying to stitch them all together through a grant program called our Ecosystem Partner Program, where, we coordinate and we learn from each other. And we have to date funded about 40 organizations. We have a current program, a current grant that's open right now. And these are grants between like 50 to 150 grand. We're going to announce in before the end of the year, hopefully, another 12 to 16 companies. And our goal there is to help raise everybody's game, right? Like, let's make us all smarter at how we're doing this. So if you think, micro, 10,000 is to seed 50,000. On the ecosystem, 50 to 150,000, we have a pre-one to that called Engage, okay, which are the smaller grants, right? And that's walking around money for us to make new friends and learn about new things, programs that are out there that just need a little bit of starting capital. Okay. And then if they work out, we might see them grow. And then I think the thing that I couldn't be more proud of is our most recent advance in this space. And that was the formation of the North Carolina Black Entrepreneurship Council, where we really, I think like a lot of organizations, George Floyd and all of the, energy and angst around the Black Lives Matter movement, everybody, most decent human beings, have empathy and wanted to react. And, we could have issued a BLM statement on our website and done what a lot of people did. But we've been so close to this economic development mission. We know that the Black population in particular is so underrepresented in economic development and entrepreneurship outcomes, whether it's, private equity raised, number of startups, any category you slice it, right? So the team and the board, the incredible board and the incredible team that I have the privilege to work with, we really put our heads together and said, we have to do something meaningful. It can't just be a statement, right? It can't be just we stand united. What the hell does that even mean, right? Like, put action, it takes action. So we formed the council. And not only did we form this council, we put out a public call for applications. We had almost 150 people applied, which was humbling beyond words. And then we selected from them 25 to serve on the council. And then we put our money where our mouth is, and we funded it with $500,000.
Wow.
So we've got the first 500 grand, under the purview of the council. The council is deciding how we're going to allocate those dollars, who's going to get funded and not. And then more importantly, we're trying to raise a lot more money right now, because $500,000 is a lot of money to us, but it's a drop in the bucket if you're looking to tackle the systemic racism that have put, Black people behind the eight ball that they are in economic development terms. And so for every company out there that was, so happy to put that BLM statement on their website and issue a press release, I say, come join us and we will put capital to work directly at economically empowering, Black people. And our goal is, if we're successful, people ask how will we know what does success look like? Success will look like when it becomes common knowledge that North Carolina is the best state in the country for Black founders to start and grow companies of high potential.
Wow, I think that is an amazing take on it, because I do agree. As I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people have reached out, a lot of different organizations wanted to do something, but when you see an organization like this, like that steps up and not only makes the statement, but also puts the money in and starts really taking steps towards changing the outcomes and changing the situation, I think that is a phenomenal thing. So definitely congrats on the progress that you're making there.
Well, thank you, Terrell. I mean, I appreciate the kind words for what they are. To me, it's just common sense, right? Like, we've got to break the cycle. And that means people in positions of privilege have to make those steps, right? And we have to do it with intentionality. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We've got to track the data. We have to react. In other words, we have to do everything we tell entrepreneurs to do, right? So it really comes down to eating our own dog food. And so I'm a big proponent of, doing that, right? We should take the advice we give to others and hold ourselves, accountable accordingly.
Awesome. Now, you talked about a lot of great programs. So where can people find you guys online or on social media to find out what NC Idea is up to?
So, not surprisingly, right? ncidea.org is the clearinghouse for all of our stuff. If you need yet another Twitter account to follow, at Thom Ruhe, ThomRuhe, I amplify, broadcast everything we do through my, Twitter account. But we try to put it, everything out there on our site as a central repository. Now, I'm happy to say, through efforts like our ecosystem partner program, and our extended partner network, and now with the North Carolina Black Entrepreneurship Council, we have force multipliers. People are amplifying out there. We do have a, whatever twice a month means. I always forget, is that bi-monthly or, but every other week we send out an email newsletter. That's a good source. So yeah, that's how you can get a hold of us and see what we're up to.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, one question that I like to ask every guest that comes on, and I'm very interested in your answer to this one, is, when you think about your journey, you think about, the work that you do now and the impact that you guys have, what's two pieces of advice that you would share with other entrepreneurs?
Well, again, as I said earlier, entrepreneurship is an interesting path, right, to take. So, unto thy own self be true, so to speak, right? Understand what it is you're committing yourself to. That's really important, because for a lot of folks that really have not had any experience to speak of, or again, raised in a family where they had the kitchen table experience of entrepreneurship, namely experiencing the hardships of it and the wins, the victories of it. Do your homework and understand what you're committing to, because it's easy to have a misunderstanding of what entrepreneurship is. I like to say, tongue in cheek, ask 10 people to tell you what entrepreneurship is and you'll get 11 answers. They'll all generally be positive, right? But they will vary widely from, the guy that owns a gas station to Mark Zuckerberg, right? And there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of details in between that range, so to speak. So try to understand what it is you're trying to do, and what that's going to mean to you, right? There are some people that when they take that stock, they come to this understanding like, oh, you know what? I don't think I'm founder material. I'm a good team member, right? I want somebody else to be sweating the payroll, right? As someone who's signed the front of a paycheck for about 20 years, I guess I am now again too, but in an entrepreneurial capacity, there's a lot of pressure and weight that goes with that versus like, I'm going to focus on just helping this company grow. So I think if you go through that journey of self-discovery and truly understanding, what you're good at, and then you have to listen to the feedback and react. I always tell people, entrepreneurs obviously in particular, beware of flattering feedback. Beware of people that just tell you happy, good things, because that's like cotton candy. It tastes good in the moment, but it's rotting your teeth. And it's the hard criticism, it's the hard feedback that like makes us all, stand up or sit up and be like, ooh, that hurt my feelings. Usually there's good stuff in that, right? If you can put aside how it makes you feel personally and learn from it, right? Learning is what you get when you don't get what you want. Gotcha. I can't take credit for that. Somebody said that to me once, and I thought that was very true. And that's very, very true when you're on an entrepreneurial path, an entrepreneurial journey. So just know that. So you go into it, eyes wide open. And then, this is a little in the weeds now, but if you get a chance, if you're thinking about doing this path, if you get a chance to maybe just take a job in an early stage company, and learn, that's what kind of put me on this path.
Gotcha.
I just finished college. I got honorable discharge from the Air Force. I had a degree in, computer science. This is the 80s now. I'm dating myself. And, went off to be a programmer for a year, hated that job. The only reason I took that in college was because the Air Force gave me a scholarship, a 4-year Air Force ROTC scholarship in that field. Did it for a year. I never thought that, I would even like it, and I hated it, right? So I didn't know unto myself what made me happy. So I fell into this startup in a dirty little industrial parkway. A founder who, by his own admission, barely graduated from high school, right? So he was no smarter than me or anybody else, but he had the mindset, right? And he found this niche area to make money. And, he put this team together and he hired me. I'm 23 at the time. And he's like, the company was doing just under $1 million at the time I joined. It was like 900 grand a year. And he said, hey, the government, I understand the government buys what we sell. You were in the Air Force, you understand all that stuff on uniforms, and figure this out, right? So he hires this kid to go figure it out. And 12 months later, I secured his first $3 million contract.
Wow. And
in the 3 years that I worked for the man, I made him a multimillionaire.
Wow.
Right. And so that was my turn the light on moment, right? That's when I made the connection, even though I wasn't using the language yet, that entrepreneurial mindset and all that happens. I got to watch it. Mm-hmm. I got to watch this man, who was less educated than I was, but just understood problem solving, critical thinking. I got to see him apply it. And then, he became wealthy. He created more jobs. Those people that had jobs were feeding their families, putting their kids through school. I got to see firsthand what that meant. And then I was screwed for the rest of my life, right? And I was never going to be a cog in a big corporate wheel. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just, for me, again, the mind had opened and it put me on that path.
Gotcha. Well, Thom, thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your wisdom and letting us know a lot more about the journey of NC Idea, the great things that you guys have going on. We'll definitely share some links in the description so people can follow, people can see all the great things, because North Carolina truly is a great place to start a business, and NC Idea is one of those organizations that is letting you know why that is so true. So thanks for coming on, Thom.
Terrell, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for what you're doing. It really is a great repository. I can't recommend enough to viewers to check out all the other videos you have. There's some really good stuff there.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.